So, you think you're untouchable?
When I step through the door of that Elimination Chamber, knowing I'm going to take the beating of my lifetime, and I'm man enough to go through with it, and I'm going to walk out the WWE Champion.
John Cena with the STF locked in. Triple H in an unbelievable amount of pain. Triple H is faking. Look at his hands. Look at his hands. That's the time. He tapped out.
Because our time is now. Because the chair is here.
Hello.
Hello.
Braden Herrington here with Davie Portman for Poison Rana. And you heard off the top, the champ is here. We are going through every John Cena title reign, victory, the whole 9 yards. And we can't do this alone because today on episode 8, to look at John Cena's 8th WWE World Title win, we are joined by the Solomonster, Jason Solomon. How's it going, brother?
It's going great. I can't wait to talk about the shortest John Cena title run of all 16 that he's had so far. He's had a lot.
A lot of them.
He's had a lot.
Halfway through, sort of, kind of. You know, we already had the Iron Man, Randy Orton one booked up. I know, unfortunately, we couldn't have you on for that one. But we got one of the shortest WWE title reigns of all time that we're going to talk about today. So we appreciate you coming on, and we hope you're ready to talk about John Cena.
Yeah, my pleasure. This is a cool thing. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely.
You're very welcome. Yeah, we've been trying to schedule that. Like, these shows have been long in the past, and it's trying to like fit it around like, okay, Braden, which week are you like quiet at work? And same with me, so we actually have time. This one, it's this is a breath of fresh air. A like 2-3 minute title reign, and I can't wait to get into it all. But yeah, Jason, how have you been? Maybe we'll start off by telling some listeners who might not be familiar with you. I'm sure majority of them are, but what you do and kind of how we know each other and came about doing this show today.
Well, I mean, we've done a few shows before, so I know this is not our first time. But yeah, no, I've had a podcast called Solomonster Sounds Off now for November is going to be 18 years.
Wow.
That I'm an old fart. So I've been doing that for a long time. And also we have the YouTube channel. I do live streams every week, Raw, SmackDown, AEW post show. So that keeps me pretty busy throughout the week. And of course it's WrestleMania season. So April is typically the busiest month. So that's why I'm glad we were able to make this work. But yeah, that's where you can find me. I'm pretty much everywhere at all times.
And I know from some of our friends, shout out See No Evil and Fire Frank, who are up in New York or down in New York because we're in Toronto, but they attend the House of Glory. They're big Hog fans, and I'm pretty sure you could be seen there too, right? Down there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, we have shows all up and down the East Coast, and now we're even expanding into other areas. But yeah, I do commentary for House of Glory. I'm also the commissioner, so I wear many hats there. And we run shows pretty regularly. It's pretty much every month and sometimes more than that. You know, we have a New York show coming up at the end of the month, and then 2 weeks later we're in Chicago, and then we just announced Texas for All In Weekend. So
amazing.
It's getting pretty busy, and the shows are a lot of fun.
They like Hog looks like they've been picking up some crazy steam with the Mercedes stuff. You guys are always bringing in like rotations. Is the next New York one with Takeshita? I'm so jealous.
Yes, yeah, Takeshita, and that's actually a show I'm not going to be at. I'm going to be I have a wedding that night, of course, naturally. So yeah, we have Takeshita coming in for the New York show. What's cool is that it's become kind of a destination where people want to work on those shows, and so it's great because obviously if you're in WWE, they don't really allow that sort of thing. But pretty much everybody else, they say, look, I want to work at least one match in House of Glory. And then it's like, well, we'd love to have you. So when we're able to bring in a big name like that, it gets people very excited.
Amazing.
You say you're the commissioner for House of Glory. You're not a NASCAR driver as well, are you? Because it seems every show we're doing, there's some random NASCAR driver.
Jewel and her husband, Bull Rider?
Yeah.
I am not. And I don't know of any myself. Although, hey, they're more than welcome to attend the shows if they want to take in a House of Glory show.
Amazing. I've heard such good things from a lot of our friends and listeners, especially down New York area. They all love the House of Glory, and now I'm seeing it's going everywhere. So really cool.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun, and those kind of intimate shows, especially when you can get like a packed house in like a venue like that, and when you bring in somebody and people go nuts for them, and you just see the reaction, everyone how happy they are and excited they are. It's cool to be able to put that kind of stuff together. As the commissioner, you want to put together the matches that people want to see, so it's very cool.
Most of the time, commissioners or GMs
they get booed.
They get booed because you're usually a heel. Are you a heel?
No, I'm not Gary Bettman. I'm not Gary Bettman. I'm not any of these other commissioners. I'm actually kind of shocked, honestly, because by and large, the reactions when I do have to come out, make an announcement, are pretty good. Okay. Most authority figures in wrestling, I mean, I go back to the Jack Tunney days, and he always got booed. Right. So no, I guess you would call me, I don't know, a good guy. I guess it's in the eye of the beholder, I guess.
Like Commissioner Foley. That was a good one.
Exactly.
Yeah, Commissioner.
I wouldn't put myself quite at his level, but in that same realm, yes.
Well, it's amazing to have you. I have you here. I have mentioned this is episode 8. We will be continuing once a month. Davie and I have been going through every John Cena title victory. One day we'll get to episode 17, which may, happen quicker than we maybe anticipated. So give us a follow if you haven't already and you're listening. We have done 7 episodes in the past. We'll continue to do a lot more, but I want to, before we kind of jump in here, Jason, where are you with John Cena fandom? We like to ask everyone, are you the type that would be on the Cena haters, or are you part of the C Nation? Because we can be honest, this is a safe space.
And maybe let's talk about 2010 and today, where we stand with Cena.
Right.
But maybe first impressions too, Yeah.
First impressions were, well, I mean, you want to say first impressions, that goes back to, Ruthless Aggression when he came out and he was just wearing regular ring gear. But I mean, look, I like the Doctor of Thugonomics stuff. I thought that was cool. And no one can deny how over he was. I wouldn't say I was in the C Nation, and I wouldn't say I was a hater. I would say I was kind of somewhere in the middle. And I always tried to give him credit because I don't think he got enough credit for having great matches. He may not have been the best mat technician, but when you really look at his body of work, he's had a lot of classic matches. And I still feel like there are people who, maybe less so now, but they really wouldn't give him a lot of credit for it. And, the you can't wrestle stuff and all that. So I respected, what he was able to accomplish. I was never a huge John Cena fan. I wasn't going to the shows with my hat going like this, and wearing the gear and everything, although I did dress as him for Halloween once. But I mean, outside of that, I respected his body of work, but I wouldn't say I was the biggest fan. And I was one of those people, as the years went on, who was in the camp of, okay, like this is actually stifling the growth of others, and it would be nice if other people were given the same opportunities that he was, because he had a long time on top, and they really relied on him for probably a good 10-year period there. And I think it became more of a negative than a positive after a while. But I would say I'm somewhere in the middle. I wouldn't call myself a hater, but I certainly have more respect now for his entire body of work. Looking back at it now, when you get that kind of full view of it, he'll be in the Hall of Fame in the next few years. And this is his last year. So you can reflect back and go, man, he really did do a lot of good stuff. But that run on top went on for so long, there were a lot of people who just resented him for it. They were sick of it. When are we going to get somebody new? And then they did, and they turned on Roman Reigns.
They hated it.
Yeah, then they hated it, exactly. Well, because he was handpicked, They want it to be more organic.
Remember, he doesn't bury talent, though. He buries mediocrity.
Well, I think that the Nexus might have something to say about that. We're talking about 2010 here in this episode. I know that's a little later in the year, but it was funny. I literally, just this morning, there was an interview with Kenny McIntosh, I think, over in the UK, that Heath Slater gave. And he was talking about that Nexus angle and the match at SummerSlam. And he said that it was John Cena who basically buried them beneath the earth. I mean, he got to the building. I don't want to get too far off topic here, but they got to the building that day, and up until an hour before doors opened, the Nexus was going over. Cena didn't like that. The Nexus ended up not going over. It's stuff like that. I think people will look back and go, man, John Cena, he buries people. But I think there were a lot of other wrestling politicians that you could point to over the years. Yeah. I don't know that I would put Cena in that same category.
I think back to it was way later, but like when SummerSlam or something, Baron Corbin and Cena had a program, and Cena, clear as day on camera, was like, "This guy, this is who I'm supposed to have a feud with," or along those lines, and people were like, "Oh, whoa, damn, okay."
I think that was 2017. Yeah, well, that was also around the time he had the worst Money in the Bank cash in of all time, so he was pretty much done for at that point. Yeah. Cena was a guy who had a lot of pull if you wanted to use it. And if he didn't like you or he thought like this guy's not worth it, I'm sure that his opinion carried a lot of weight with Vince McMahon. So if he were to go to him and say this guy he can't hack it, that could be the end of your career. Wow. I mean, legit, that could be the end of your push. Look at a Mr. Kennedy. I mean, you could find other examples of that. So he carried a lot of sway. Whether or not he always used it is up for debate. I always just got the impression he was a guy who Vince would tell him what to do, and he's like, okay. He wouldn't really push back or fight back against it. He was the perfect soldier, which is why Vince McMahon loved him so much.
Is there anyone in particular during his whole run that you really think could have been a top guy in hindsight that Cena kind of held back?
I don't know if I would say Cena held him back.
Or the booking held back or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I always look at a guy like Dolph Ziggler. He could have absolutely been bigger than he was. Could he have been what Cena was? I don't know about that. But I always go back to him. And there were opportunities along the way where you can pinpoint, even as late as like 2014, 2015, where they had the chance and they didn't do it. I wouldn't sit here and blame John Cena for that. There's really only one person to blame for that, and thankfully he's not around anymore. So that's the name that always stands out to me. There were other people who were coming up that Cena worked with who I think had potential. In the early days, I thought Alex Riley could turn into something.
He was coming to mind, yeah.
Now I look back on that and okay, I was wrong. I think in the grand scheme, I don't think it would have worked out. But there were people, yeah, but he could have at least had the chance. And he's one of them who has complained over the years that things happen backstage and I never, they cut my legs off and I never had the chance. That's true. I believe that. Can I tell one quick little Cena story here?
Yeah.
This one's always stuck with me. And I'm not saying he would have been a main eventer, but it's just an example of the kind of pull that Cena had. I remember reading JTG's book, and he tells this just famous story where he was finally getting merch. He was a big Bret Hart fan, so he was getting his own shades. And this was a big deal to him. And he had done an interview with the magazine, and they were asking him, I think, questions about his tag team partner, Shad. And he used the words, I think, loyalty and respect in the quote.
Oh, no.
And as soon as the interview was over, he realized, like, uh-oh. And he went to the writer or the editor and said, can you please not put that in there? And he's like, oh, yeah, sure, no problem. So, of course, they put it in there, naturally. So he's in the bathroom one day at one of the events, and he comes out of the stall, and Cena's there. And Cena, he points out, oh, look, loyalty and respect, huh? And he knew instantly, like, oh, shit. And he's like, no, I didn't, he wasn't supposed to print that. And he says, Cena was like, oh, no, it's fine. But, there's got to be a receipt for that. That's my catchphrase, and you can't be doing stuff like that. He goes, so those new shades that you were going to be getting, like, yeah, you're not going to be getting those. And so the shades never came out. And it's like, you hear stories like that. And I don't know, it's hard to get into when you're a top guy like that. I can understand being paranoid about your position, but stuff like that, I'll never understand. It's just like, I'll never understand it, but it just goes to show the power that someone like him would have had back then.
I feel we're moving away from that in like just watching things like NXT, the amount of finishers that people are, which would have been, like Miles Bourne hitting a cutter and stuff like that, where, years ago you would have thought a Randy would have been like, no, I'm the only guy that does a cutter. Like the amount of people that do spears in WWE now, things like that. There was a story, I can't remember who it was, but someone had a burning hammer as a finisher. And Cena was like, that looks way too much like my move. You are not doing
Tyler
that.
Rex.
Tyler Rex.
And he got heat for that.
Yeah.
He got heat for using that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can understand people being protective of like their finish and stuff like that. Like, I kind of understand that. But then there are just stories from over the years where it just doesn't seem like such a big deal. And yet it could be the end of your push just like that. And your career goes this way instead of going that way. But that's the wrestling business.
Yeah. It seems to, like you said, David, it seems like that those are somewhat in the past. Like I can't necessarily think of anything similar that's come to mind because people would be outing people, I guess, more commonly with, the way social media
the inevitable Chris Van Vliet interview where they
like they would explain pretty quickly, hey, this just happened to me or whatever. So maybe also like maybe a bit different, you would think.
Either that, I mean, I'm sure it maybe doesn't happen as often, or it's just a case where people are just more mindful of it and respectful of it, because that stuff to some degree will always happen. Maybe we won't always hear about it, but yeah, we certainly hear more now about stuff than we did, 15, 20 years ago. Imagine the stuff that happened back in the 90s.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when we were talking about, I think probably one of our early episodes, we were really diving deep into the whole career of Cena. And in multiple interviews, he said the same thing. Like, what about like Triple H and a bunch of wrestlers being like, "Oh yeah, this Cena kid sucks. He can't hack it. Get rid of him." Essentially. So, like, there's always been people trying to give their thoughts and little things, and it could totally derail someone's career,
especially Triple H.
Yeah. The original of doing stuff like that,
but this all does play quite nicely in his like current day character. I mean, completely addressing it on Raw. We're recording this on April 3rd. If you're listening to this in the future, and Cena just did the whole promo about burying talent, etc. How are you enjoying these first few weeks of heel Cena?
Up until Monday, not as much as I was hoping I would. It just felt like such a letdown of a follow-up to such a hot angle. Yeah. And, maybe it was necessitated by his movie schedule. We didn't see him for 2 weeks, after Elimination Chamber. What we saw on Monday, the first real back and forth between him and Cody, I thought was excellent. That's what I was hoping to see, within the first couple of weeks coming out of that angle and keep it really hot. And now my fear is that we finally got it this week. And now I don't even know if we're going to see him again, before WrestleMania. So I'm digging it more after what we had on Monday, but I mean, I'd be lying if I said that I didn't feel like I should be more excited about it than I am right now. And if it didn't feel like, man, this is like 12 or 13 years too late, I really wish like the promos he was cutting, like it would have been so perfect. Like what we're talking about today, 2 years after this, it just would have hit different.
In the mid 2010s, even like just anywhere around there.
I would say even a little bit earlier, like 2012, 2013, like that really would have been like it really hit me watching him when he got hurt in 2013 and like the show after he lost to Daniel Bryan. He had an injury, he had to go away and have surgery, and he told the crowd, he goes, "Look, I'm going away, I'm having surgery on my arm," and they started a yes chant, and I'm like, man. If anybody would have had good reason to just snap and just turn on the fans, like that was the time to do it, like that version of John Cena. And so look, at least now, we're getting to see it now. I think it makes it a little more interesting than it would have been if they were just both baby faces. I think that would have been boring. It's almost like someone had to go heel and it wasn't going to be Cody. So I'm glad they're doing it. I hope it's not only for like a month, because there's just so many good matches to do with him, Orton, Punk, with him as a heel before we get the eventual redemption arc.
It's interesting as well. You bring up that kind of 2013 period. And if I'm correct, I don't think he even main evented a WrestleMania after that. So it's like he's kind of taking a step back from being the guy like around that time anyway. So it would have been the opportune time to do it. When they're, now you're having the rise of Roman and the Shield and Bryan and the likes for the next few years. So I think that would have been the perfect opportunity. And as you said, fans cheering an injury, it's like when that it's on a silver platter for you, really.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it would have fit so I said, like when we first heard him speak a few weeks ago, I said he's had that written down or in his head. I guarantee you he's had that in his head for at least a decade.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I think we should go back in time to Raw, February 1st, 2010. And as things change, things stay the same because we're kicking things off with John Cena versus Cody Rhodes.
How crazy is this? We did not plan this. We just happened to land on this reign at this time. And it was the last show, I think, Davey, where we're like, hey, wait, we're watching Cody versus Cena in like pretty quick matches. This one wasn't nearly that longer either. But like, still, this is the most contact I think they've had in a singles one-on-one Cody versus Cena from February 1st, 2010. I'm talking pre-blonde hair, pre-Stardust. This is
legacy.
Yeah, this is young boy Cody Rhodes here. And how funny is it that we're talking about John Cena facing Cody at Mania, and here they are all these years ago wrestling for a shot at the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, so a bit of context. At the end of our last show, Sheamus had won the WWE title in a tables match by kind of shoving Cena through kind of slipped through a table and lost the title. Cena failed at the Royal Rumble, and now there's Elimination Chamber qualifying matches. Cena taking on Cody Rhodes. They give Cody, it's a short match. It goes about 5 minutes, but Cody gets a nice amount of offense in there. Hits a top rope moonsault to a standing John Cena, which was quite impressive. However, Cena overcomes, hits the AA, and qualifies for the Elimination Chamber. Quick match, but I'm sure there were more moves in this match than there's going to be at WrestleMania this year. But WrestleMania will have a lot more to it. But yeah, it's kind of cool going back and looking at Cena and Cody, especially at this time.
More moves from Cena here than we'll probably get from him this year. Yeah. I haven't really been impressed by his recent matches in the last couple of years.
5 years, yeah. Easily.
Probably that long. I mean, like the match with Austin Theory a couple of years ago, I didn't think that was good at all. I don't want to say he's phoning it in. I mean, it could be a combination of age and just maybe not wanting to get hurt because he's got other projects going on. I just remember there was a period in like the mid 2010s where he started busting out these moves that he had never done before. Like he was trying. He heard the criticisms. You only have 5 moves. All right, I'll give you a 6th. And he would do this like standing Hurricane Rana in his matches and stuff. Like, hey, at least he's like it doesn't necessarily it doesn't look the best. Well, that's a great example. It doesn't look the best, but hey, he's trying. Like I'll give him a gold star. And I don't know. I think those days are probably over, but that's another reason why I think the heel turn was needed, because it'll just add a different dimension to it. He's going to have to work the match a little bit differently too. I'm curious to see what kind of a match he has as a heel. But back during this period, I would say this was around the time where maybe in-ring peak, where he was doing a lot of different stuff. Cody obviously was still very young at this point, but it was jarring to see them in the ring together, knowing what we are, and coming off that promo on Monday, but just knowing what we're headed into. But you could see there were flashes of like greatness with Cody even back then.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's funny watching this because King on commentary keeps calling Cody Randy Orton in this match. I think he calls him Randy Orton like 4 times watching this yesterday. And Cody also hits what kind of looks like a Rainmaker, actually. So here in 2010, Cody knew he would eventually go over to Japan there. But I thought this is a cool little like piece that a lot of fans today probably wouldn't know, that these guys have tangled up a few times. And I'd say this was the biggest before the version that we're getting now. And it was just so kind of weird watching this back. And I wonder if we'll see some clips of this or a reference to the fact that they have tied up in the past, just nothing to the extent, or of course, WWE first time they've ever fought as WrestleMania 41.
I don't think they'll say first time ever. I could see them weaving clips of it into like the video package for the match. Yeah. I think they should, actually. I don't think it's something that they should ignore because it's part of their history together.
Yeah, they brought up that they used to ride together, that Cody drove him around and stuff. So I think they should absolutely use this. Later in the show, Triple H defeats Jack Swagger in a qualifying match. Randy Orton defeats Shawn Michaels. Ted DiBiase Jr. defeats Mark Henry. And Kofi Kingston defeats The Big Show. So they're your 6 going into Chamber with Sheamus obviously defending the title. Now, this is a really weird build for Elimination Chamber for this match, because there's not a whole lot of feuding between these 6 men. Occasionally, Sheamus will run out and hit someone with the unnamed at this point bro kick. But really, this is a Bret Hart, Vince McMahon story that's building this match. It's kind of bizarre, and we do go to that towards the end of the show. William Shatner comes out. He's the guest.
I feel like I'm transported back to 1994 watching this.
Weird.
Bizarre. He's the guest GM. He has some awkward comedy with Jerry Lawler, who are obviously real-time friends, and introduces the excellence of execution, Bret Hart. And Bret says he's been back in the company for a little over a month, and it's been 12 years since he was in WWE. And over these years, he's been wanting to make peace, and everyone warned him about the kind of guy Vince McMahon was, but he was naive. He thought he could put the past behind them, but there's no closure because Vince kicked him in the gut, and Bret keeps on bringing this. You kick me in the gut. You kick me in the gut. So calls out Vince McMahon for a bit of a face-to-face here. Vince comes out. He's obnoxiously dancing towards the ring, and Vince says he's never regretted a thing he's done to Bret ever. And Bret thanks him for his honesty, but calls him the world's greatest liar. He says, you lied in Montreal. You lied a few weeks ago when you kicked me in the gut. You lied when you said you're proud of me, and you lied when you said you're like a father to me, because you couldn't lace my father's jockstrap. And the other week, Cena called you pathetic, and I know all about pathetic. 8 years ago, I suffered a stroke and was in a wheelchair, and I cried myself to sleep at night, and I felt pathetic. And I promised I'd get out of that wheelchair, and I promised I would never feel pathetic for the rest of my life. And then I came back here, offered you my hand, and you kicked me in the gut. My gut. And left me feeling pathetic. And I worked for you for 14 years. I wrestled hurt. I wrestled sick. I missed birthdays. And I thought one day at least, Vince, you would appreciate me. And it took me 14 years to build up a reputation. And you tore it down in 3 minutes. And you called me chewing gum as I've lost all my flavor. Well, this stick of chewing gum is going to kick your ass right here and right now. Vince fires back, still calling him pathetic, and says if it wasn't for the personality of the people you faced over your career, you would just be a footnote in the middle of the card. You have no charisma, no command over the English language, and you have a hound dog looking face, stringy, crappy hair, and you're dressed like a hobo. You deserved to be screwed. And this is when Vince says he thought about inducting his dad Stu into the Hall of the Fame, but he's not going to do it because he doesn't deserve it. And this time, Bret
he kicks him in the gut.
In the gut.
Well, so 2 questions here.
Yes.
So first of all, I know he kept saying gut over and over again, and he should probably take a probiotic. But besides that, I could have sworn he kicked him in the nuts. So was it a gut shot, or did he kick him in the crotch?
It makes more sense he kicked him in the nuts.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought. He actually did kick him in the crotch, but maybe Bret thought otherwise. The other thing is, and I always hated this, and the reason I always hated this, like right when Bret attacks him, Michael Cole had the single worst commentary call that I've ever heard, because, and it wasn't even anything he said, it was the way that he said it. This is Bret Hart for the first time
attacking Vince
since he punched Vince in 1997 backstage, and he gets his hands on Vince and he punches him and he's attacking him, and there's silence, and then Cole starts to talk, and he's talking in just his normal tone. It's like Bret Hart attacking Vince McMahon like he's bored. And I'm like, try to show a little life here. Like, this is kind of a big deal, you know, that he's
crowd. Like the crowd too. I think if you had this exact moment, I'm sure they had Bret show up in Canada a few times. But like, if this happened in Canada, I think the reaction would have been a huge. Like, it feel like I was watching this. I'm like, wait a second, this is the first time he's attacking Vince, like on TV for years. Why does this moment feel like it sucks?
And just Cole, it was as if he just couldn't care less.
Yeah.
So I just thought, man, what a. You talk about taking what should have been a big moment. And that's where like someone like Jim Ross would shine, because Jim Ross in those situations, and he was keenly aware of he would have been keenly aware of the history between these two anyway. That would not have been a Jim Ross call. No. That like 100%, unless he was told to react that way, which knowing Vince is always possible. Because, well, it's kind of funny. Like a number of months ago on social media, I made a comment, and then Todd Grisham responded. He used to do announcing for WWE. Yeah. And I must have been talking about something on my show, and I just made the comment about when Christian came back in 2009, and the call on commentary, it's Christian. Yeah. And so Grisham responded, and he gave me the story behind it. He said, Vince told me to do that. He goes, right before I was going out, he pulled me aside and said, I don't want you to sell it at all. Like, no enthusiasm, nothing. He goes, really? He goes, nothing. It's like, okay. So, like, with moments like this, I wonder, like, is that something Vince told him? Like, yeah, when he attacks me, just like, no, don't sell it as a big deal.
Yeah, undersell it. Like,
yeah,
so bizarre, because I was scratching my head watching this. Like, of course, I'm gearing up to watch all this John Cena, and the way they're weaving Cena, Bret, Batista, as we'll get to. But then I'm like, wait a second. No, I remember this. This was weeks after Shawn and Bret had the hug that a lot of wrestling fans were like, oh, shit, we're back. And then you watch the rest of the episode of Raw. You're like, we might not be as back as we thought. But, like, this is still hot off of that. First time Bret getting revenge on Vince McMahon. And it feels so, like, not what you wanted. Imagine you were just holding out for that. And it's like, this wasn't it.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you were holding out for it, I mean, but at the same time, I mean, how many years ago? 12 years had gone by.
A long time.
You know, they were a lot older. Bret was really, he had
so much older. Yeah.
Yeah, he had the stroke, and it's like he's not the same anymore. So it was never going to be what it could have been had he come back 3 years later. You know, obviously that would have been a big deal, and we could have gotten another Bret Shawn WrestleMania match out of it, but it never happened. So a lot of time had gone by. You know, I'm a huge Bret Hart. Bret's my guy. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm a huge Bret Hart fan. If you ask me who's your favorite all time, it's Bret. And so I was just happy to see him back during this period. That was a big deal, even though it annoyed me that they changed his music. It was a big deal to see him back. And I know Bret looks back fondly on this, even though a lot of fans don't.
Yeah.
And their WrestleMania match was horrendous. But Bret's opinion is like he likes it because it was that finality and that closure that he never got. So he's like, yeah, it may have been a bad wrestling match, but like that whole thing, that whole angle and the setup to it, like at least I was able to feel like, okay, now we kind of gave me more of a proper ending. So as I was watching these segments, when you shared them with me, that I was kind of looking at it with that in mind. Like, yeah, you know what, this is really not that great, but at least I'm happy he got that closure that he never got all those years before.
I feel the same way because like I was a little younger, and of course I would have all these like older Bret stuff, and then finally they're like, hey, look, we're launching new Bret merch, new Bret, like everything. It was like, whoa, look, he's on TV. And then like what we were given wasn't necessarily my favorite, but it's like, hey, at least Bret Hart's like here, right?
Hey, he's back.
Yeah, sort of.
He's back. But yeah, kind of. Yeah.
You can tell, but like down to, you know, not wearing ring gear as well in his matches, that he's like, this isn't really Bret Hart. This is like a little like appendix almost, like kind of add on to the career. But you can tell like he's like, obviously he suffered the stroke and stuff, but even I think adding to the crowd reaction and the lack of commentary here, even the beatdown is, and I love Bret, but kind of sucks. Like it looks like a non-wrestler beatdown, like the punches and stuff.
It's slow motion.
Didn't look great.
Yeah, it's slow. I think, well, he pulled Vince's shoe off and like threw it at him as he was putting the sharpshooter on. But you know what? When he went to go put the sharpshooter on him, place popped.
The crowd actually.
Yeah, the crowd reacted to it more than Michael Cole did. The crowd reacted to it. And then we had the surprise run-in.
Yes. So Batista, as Bret Hart setting up for the sharpshooter, Batista runs out and attacks Bret, and Vince spits, getting that own back from many, many years ago. Now spits in Bret's face.
That's lovely.
And that closes Raw. However, the next week, we see kind of what happened after the show went off the air. And I imagine this was probably posted on .com and stuff like that at the time. But Cena comes out to check on Bret, and then Batista attacks him. He hits him in the head with the ring steps and then hits the Batista bomb on the steps. What do you make of this? Not actually showing it on TV, but having it as a... it's kind of when they do this, it's almost as if they're trying to go like, this is real. This is actually happening rather than on air.
It's that little postscript. I also look at it as a smart way to just get people to tune in, the following week. It's just one of those, even though that didn't air on TV, I'm sure they did have it up on the website and maybe their YouTube channel at the time. And it just gives people a reason to want to tune into the beginning of the show the following week to see what the reaction is going to be from John Cena. So, and they still do stuff like that sometimes. And now it's only now you have Twitter and Instagram. And so it'll be shared on social media, like, Kevin Owens kicking Cody's ass outside of his bus after was a Bad Blood. And it gets shared hundreds of millions of times on social media. And then when they go on the air for the next episode of SmackDown, it's like, okay, we can carry that story over. So it's smart, it's smart for them to do that. I remember watching that, and when Batista ran in, I'm like, what's he doing here? And then he kicks Bret. Now
in the guts.
In the gut. And so, but I remember the word at the time was that Bret could not be hit in the head, and he couldn't take any shots to the head. And so I remember distinctly, like, oh, is he going to, give him a Batista bomb? Because he, bent him over. I thought he was going to powerbomb the guy. I'm like, he'll friggin' die. But he did the old hockey thing where he pulled the, the shirt over his head. And so he was kind of, punching him, but you couldn't really see where the punches were connecting. And so Bret, he kind of bumped. He kind of, fell to his knees. So they had to really go out of their way to protect him because there were certain limitations because of the stroke where he just couldn't take shots to the head, even in the WrestleMania match that he had.
It's weird. I remember watching this, that you hear the crowd chant Cena when Vince spits in his face when Batista's holding him, and then they just go off the air. And then later you realize, or the next week they tell you, or online or whatever, this is years before before they could tout it out. But this was clearly hey, let's try to, use the internet and stuff. But all looking back, you have John Cena, who you're trying to push as this guy still at the time. He's already the John Cena that we know at this point. But wouldn't you just have him in a segment with Bret, saving Bret? I feel like that would be a really big moment and kick off the feud where Batista's the paid hired gun from Vince, and they're about to murder Bret, and Cena's the one who saves him. I feel like that would have been a way more compelling story than just where they kind of go with this, where Cena's then now going to go into the chamber, that Batista's not in the chamber. Obviously we know what happens, but I do think there was a missed opportunity to have this big Cena Bret moment, because before you even sent me the stuff to watch, Davie, all I could think of in my head was the only moment I can really think of Cena and Bret is when he gets hit by the car. And it's not a good moment. So I think they maybe missed the boat here a little bit. I'm not sure. Yeah.
So we go forward to the next episode of Raw from February 8th, 2010 at the Cajun Dome in Lafayette, Louisiana. And NASCAR racer Carl Edwards has been busy booking matches. He's putting all the same competitors.
This is where we were scraping the bottom of the barrel now.
Boy.
What?
Yeah.
Carl Edwards, bless him.
So he's booked all the Elimination Chamber competitors in singles matches. Sheamus taking on Orton, Ted DiBiase, Triple H taking on Kofi, and DiBiase taking on Cena. And Cena basically throws out the match immediately. He absolutely destroys DiBiase. He locks in the STF on the floor and just doesn't give a shit about the match. Ted's tapping out. He's not letting go. And Cena just gets into the ring and gets on the mic and says, I didn't want to have a match tonight. He says, I'm here to call out Batista. I don't want to know why you did it because I can't change what you did. I just want to fight you. And last week you were sent down to take me out. Well, it didn't work. I'm still here and I ain't going nowhere until you come out here. Cena says Batista is either scared for his life, and he should be, or his unwarranted attack was a business decision. And when I hear those words, one person comes to mind, and that's Vince McMahon. 2 weeks ago, I called Vince pathetic, and he doesn't like being embarrassed. And then a week later, I'm attacked. And if I'm not going to fight Batista tonight, I'd like to talk to Vince. So Vince comes out. He brings about 10 security members out with him. You see Cena kind of counting them all. And Cena's like, it's going to take more than that to stop me. Next time you have to come out with a tank. So Vince says, okay, I don't need these guys. I'll come in the ring on my own, as he calls himself a supreme alpha male. And when God created heaven and earth, it wasn't Adam he had in mind. It was me, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. And says last week he bought out Batista for a little bit of compensation because I wanted to screw Bret over once again. And it felt good spitting in his face. But I had nothing to do with Batista attacking you. And Cena asks why. And said, well, maybe he attacked you because you eliminated him in the Royal Rumble. Or maybe he just doesn't like you. And I don't like you. I don't like your orange colors. I don't like your G.I. Joe jaw. But you do make me a lot of money. And Cena comes back with this little point.
It's always about the money with you, ain't it? You listen to these people. You know why they chant for me and they don't chant for you? Because you're all about the damn dollar. You got a ton of money and all you care about is making more and spending what you got to get an advantage. And you're wearing off on everybody else. You took a good guy like Dave Batista and you paid him off. And now all he gives a damn about is cash and checks. You don't get it. Every one of us has got to make a living. I get that. But you do this for money. I do this because I love it. I do this for the moment, for moments like this where I get to stand in the middle of Louisiana right after the Saints win the Super Bowl and feel the energy in the crowd. I got news for you, Daddy Warbucks. You can't put a price tag on that right there. I do it for moments like in 2 weeks when I step through the door of that Elimination Chamber knowing I'm going to take the beating of my lifetime and I'm man enough to go through with it and I'm going to walk out the WWE champion. I do it for moments like WrestleMania 26, crunch time, when Never Give Up stands for something, and I'm in the middle of the ring in front of 75,000 people hoisting that WWE Championship high, knowing that for everybody's hard work, we hung in there with the best of the land.
Kind of spooky, this promo, talking about this just after Cena's promo this week. But yeah, doing it for the money. Batista selling out. And when you look at it, Cena sold out all those years later. But what did we make of this promo, Jason?
Well, I mean, you heard the crowd. So obviously he had the people behind him. And Vince is the greatest heel of all time. So it didn't take much to, get people to, want to boo him and want to see him get taken down. It's kind of like low-hanging fruit as far as him being the number one villain. But it was a good promo. That was kind of Cena in his element. That was Cena who, if he wanted to tear you down, whoever you were, like on the mic, he could do it. Like if he wanted to ether you and just end you, he had that ability to do so. He's always been very, very good on promos. He's honestly one of the greatest promos or promo guys in the history of that company. Now, a lot of the stuff that we got during this period was also very cheesy. But if you kind of left him to his own devices or you gave him some good material, he's one of the top promo guys they've ever had. So I'm not surprised that he was getting the reactions that he was getting at that time.
It does feel kind of cheap having just Cena. It's always recycled Vince versus, the star or whoever. Like they just play that.
Well, they did it with Roman. They did it with Roman. Yeah, many years later.
They'll do it with everyone, right? So it's just like the classic, like let's go to what we know works essentially. But like what you got out of Cena, I still kind of think like this story is confusing because obviously we're not watching all of the Raw here and stuff. But like from my memory, I'm still sticking with what I said just a few minutes ago. It's like, wait, you're feuding with Vince and he's feuding with Bret and
Sheamus is the champion right now. Like that's what we need to remember.
What?
But you know what though, having watched the Chamber match, it's pretty clear why they did it that way because of what happened after the match was over. Like all of this was designed to get to that match of WrestleMania.
Yes.
So yes, the rest of the chamber and everybody else in it, they really did. They were kind of like background players to the larger story. But when you see what happened when the chamber was over, and Batista being kind of Vince's handpicked guy, this was the beginning right here of the build to that WWE title match at WrestleMania that year.
So after this, Cena goads Vince into a match. He's like, are you about the moment or are you about the money? And Vince caves and agrees to a match with Bret Hart at WrestleMania. And he says, Bret, I want to remind you why you don't want any of this. You don't want to be embarrassed like you were last week. And Vince plays a replay of the attack when Bret Hart runs out and attacks Vince. And Vince changes his mind. He's like, you know what? No, you deserve to be screwed. We are not having the match. And they kind of recreate the Montreal moment with Bret just trashing the equipment, which all this equipment explodes. Very dangerous here. But.
Well, did you notice, though, like when he was over, I forgot what piece of equipment it was, but it started sparking. But he tripped and fell. I was like, oh, man.
We've seen that a few times from Bret.
He got back up, though. He got back up.
Maybe it was those jorts he was wearing. They're past the knee. Those are some deep jorts.
Yes.
Those are not just John Cena jorts. These are like,
I'm like, dude, just wear pants. Just wear jeans at that point.
Oh my God. These are like mid shin. Like those are deep.
Yes.
No Canadian needs to be wearing shorts that long.
No American needs to be wearing that.
3/4 length.
Jorts were in. Look, I like jorts, but like that part, I don't ever own a pair that past.
I just feel like if you're going to have a pair that long, just wear pants.
They're so long.
Just commit to the pants.
So long. That's definitely why he tripped. I'm sticking with that.
So we go to the next week, Raw, February 15th, 2010, at the Wells Fargo Arena in Des Moines, Iowa. And Bret comes out. And Bret's kind of talking about the last week on the show. And, Sorry, just lost StreamYard for a second there. Bret comes out and says he needs to finish things once and for all with Vince McMahon and that he came back to WWE with good intentions and putting things into perspective. Vince lied to me. He kicked me in the gut and lied to me some more. This crowd are watting Bret here as well, which is really frustrating.
And think about this. At that point, the what chant had already been almost 10 years old, maybe about 10 years old. We're still dealing with that today.
Yeah.
It is I've always said it's the single worst contribution that Steve Austin has ever made to the wrestling business.
Thanks a lot, Steve.
Yeah. Thanks, Stone Cold.
What? He says, I think Vince deserves to have the holy hell beat out of him. Vince is the world's greatest liar and bottom of the barrel. You actually have to tip the barrel up and look underneath. He's under the barrel. And I had my heart set on giving Vince what he deserves at WrestleMania. And it would have been so sweet to have one more victory, but it's not to be. He thanks John Cena. He thanks the fans. And he says goodbye. And...
the storyline, like, again, I haven't watched this back since it happened, but like, this is pretty infuriating if you're a fan, especially Bret. Like Jason, you were saying, like, oh, it's so cool to have him. And here he is like, I don't get my match. See you later.
Yeah. Peace out.
Bye.
It's see you in 12 more years.
Ridiculous story here. It gets crazier. Don't worry.
So Bret's then leaving. He's shaking hands with everyone. He makes sure he gets a hug off of Alicia Fox. Bret has a type.
I mean, he's still got some of that Hitman in him. I mean, come on.
He's saying goodbye to Kofi, Swagger, all his best friends.
Gail Kim too, right? Gail Kim also went over and gave him a hug.
Yeah. Evan Bourne.
One of the colons are there, and then Cena is thanking him, and he's like, "What? That's it? We're so close. We can probably get you something to do at WrestleMania. You're Bret Hart."
Bret Hart.
And Bret's like, "No. This is the end of the line. I've got nowhere to go." And Cena, you should come visit me in Calgary some point. And Cena's like, okay, yeah, Calgary, kind of, but sure. And
Stampede, I'll come for Stampede. He said.
Yeah, that's right. And oh boy, as Cena is leaving, Bret gets rear-ended as he's entering his limo by some blonde woman and traps Bret's leg in the car door, and Bret gets rushed off to hospital. What the hell's going on here?
Well, you remember the big reveal about what this was all about.
We got to get to the. I don't think, Davie, you weren't watching around this time, but like, if I'm not mistaken, this is all a big ruse, right?
Yes. So I mean, at the time I'm watching this, thinking the same thing. Like, really, this is what Bret came back for. This is the wonderful creative that they came up with for him. But what it was, because Vince had said, "Look, you're not getting your match," and so this ended up being an elaborate ruse, where after he got hurt here, Vince suddenly changed his tune. And I think it might have been the contract signing. Once the contract was signed, Bret took the cast off and said, "Oh, I'm fine. My leg is fine."
Kevin Nash.
Yeah. Not quite as good as that moment. But he's like, basically, like, I had to get you to agree to the match. And now that you've signed, like, my leg is fine. So that was the whole premise of the angle. But if you were watching it that night, like in real time, it's like, and I'm looking at the woman. I'm like, is there going to be a scene with her where she's being paid off by like Vince or something? And no, like, but the way it was left, it's like some woman didn't know what the hell she was doing and just backed into Bret Hart.
Cena's like, what the hell? You couldn't see a blooming limo?
Yelling at her. What's your problem? What's your problem, lady? And then someone
Gail
else.
Kim's losing her mind.
Yeah, Gail comes in to check, and the doctor guy that they got, I think he didn't realize what the story was, because he looks at Gail and he goes, "You've done enough." And it's like, no, he's not the one that.
He just saw a woman as like, I must have been her.
You've been Gail Kim.
You're all the problem.
Like, just so ridiculous. I completely forgot that this is how this went down. And Davie, like, you never watched this. You're probably like, what the fuck? Like, how is this leading to a match? Quote unquote match. Like, this is such a bizarre thing. Again, I'm watching this on TV, like, oh my God, John Cena, Bret Hart on the same show, and this is what we got. Oh man, ridiculous. So fucking crazy. So we spoiled it for you, Davie, but his leg's not actually hurt. He will have a pretty, famous match with Vince and the Harts and everything.
But like, of all the way, like, if you think about it, like in kayfabe, like, of all the ways to get to this point, like, Bret could have just walked out there literally on crutches and said like he tripped and fell at home. And is like,
he tripped outside, like,
he did. Yeah, he got hurt last week.
But like, the lengths to which he went, and like, hey lady, I need you to do something for me. You're gonna like ram my car. Yeah, we'll do a whole elaborate, like, you really need to do that? Probably not.
I'm sure the insurance company would come back after that as well. Wait, this was you planned this? Like,
no, she's going to have a hell of a time with her insurance company once,
You're saying they use real cars in this real glass.
Yeah, I know.
So do we never see this woman ever again?
No, literally, that's the only time we ever see her. That's
We're keeping kayfabe. Like, did Bret pay her? Someone paid her to do this, or did Bret just see a way out to fix? Like, we don't know.
I think the idea was it was a combination of like Cena was in on it too, so it was like Cena and Bret.
Right.
Maybe it was one of Cena's old girlfriends or something, and he's like, "Hey, I need a favor from you." Who knows? They never bothered to tell us. We have to piece this together ourselves to try to make sense of it.
Underrated, ridiculous wrestling storyline that I didn't remember until today. So
there's a reason why you didn't remember it. You tried to block it out of your mind.
We then get a recap from SmackDown where Batista came out to address the WWE universe of his actions, but he just drops the mic, doesn't say anything. And now,
is this Batista wearing the Canadian tuxedo? We'd seen him wear this a few times. The denim on denim, with the nose stud. This was great, Batista. At least we got the classic. I think it's after the Chamber, but the kissing babies, hugging fat girls.
Oh, that's that whole run was worth it just for that one moment alone.
That, right?
But he came out. What that was he came out on Raw. And I think he was just wearing like a denim vest.
Yeah.
And like no shirt, and he's out. It's Hollywood Dave. Like, we didn't get enough of Hollywood Dave Batista, because when he went heel, this is February. I think his last match was in May, and that was it. He left. Right. And I always felt like, man, there was so much left to do with that character. Was so great. It reminded me of Hollywood Rock in 2003, where he only had a short run and then he left, and we never really got enough of it. But I love this version of Batista. I think he's great.
I remember he did the Kanye thing at the Slammies because he wore the polos, he wore the pink polo, like the big movie star glasses, and then like interrupt someone as well. I think they did. But.
Yeah, no, his run, brief as it was just so great. But it was in that promo where he's like talking about Cena and like how different the two of them are. And I'm not going around, kissing babies and hugging fat girls or whatever it was that he said. I died like when he said that. It's so great.
So Cena comes out later on Raw and he's like, oh, we don't know the status of Bret's leg, but we hope he's okay. But now on to Batista. I was viciously attacked by Batista, and as far as I know, I did nothing to provoke it. And I said he should be scared for his life. He said he was coming to Raw to address my threats. Well, I'm here. Where are you? And Dave shows up on the Titantron wearing a red Ralph Lauren polo. Looked
very Kanye here with the polo, the popped collar, the big shades, not shutter shades, but like close.
Cena says he'll turn his back on him so he can attack him from behind, like always. And Batista goes that he's doing him a favor by not being there tonight because you don't want me in the same ring or building as you. And if we are ever in the same room again, you're going to wish that it's a bad dream. Cena says you're hiding because you don't want any of this. And you keep running your mouth when you're not there. But next week, Batista will be at Raw. And he'll be there live and in person, and see how much you run your mouth then. And if you want those answers, I'm more than happy to give you them next week. And he wishes him luck on Sunday at Elimination Chamber. Yes, John Cena is in a completely separate match at the Chamber. Batista leaves.
He's feuding with two different people at this point, neither of whom are in the match being promoted for the pay-per-view.
Yes. And we go into our main event, which is Triple H versus John Cena, which feels, looking back, pretty big to have on Raw as your main event here. Cena gets in the Proto Bomb 5-knuckle shuffle. Triple H blocks the AA, sets up for the pedigree, and that is when Sheamus comes out, hits the unnamed Brogue kick, and then delivers the Celtic Cross to Triple H. He's lays out both men. I believe earlier in the show,
white.
He was laying out everyone else.
Look at the difference in skin tone between the two of them in this photo.
Triple H and Sheamus.
He looks like a ghost.
Yeah.
So that's your go-home angle going into the pay-per-view. Sheamus, the champion, if you remember, taking out everyone. And yes, Batista, Bret, Vince, Cena, all having their feud as well.
Well, the crazy thing about this is, and to put some more context on it, Sheamus had not been on the main roster for very long. Like, I think he only debuted on Raw, I want to say maybe in October, November, is when because he was on the ECW brand.
Yeah.
And then he got promoted to Raw, and then he won the championship 2 months later from John Cena. And so he's in the mix here. He's wrestling Cena and Triple H and all these different guys, and he was still very, very new. So he got pushed very hard, very quickly.
How did you? We kind of covered it in the last show, but what were your thoughts of this? We were kind of saying that you did need to kind of get someone up there to that level. Was Sheamus the right guy to do it? The fact it's a very short title reign feels like a little bit of a failed experiment, but. Take yourself back to 2010. What were your thoughts of Sheamus around this time?
I liked him. I like Sheamus. I wasn't expecting him to be the world champion at that point, so that was very surprising to me. But he was different. He was different than anybody else they had, on top at the time. And so, like you said, it's not a bad thing to push new talent in a high position. Clearly, though, they didn't have like a long-term plan for him yet in that position, so it was a pretty short run. But as far as introducing somebody new, you can't really get any better than what they did with him. And his matches were generally pretty good. So it's not like he shit the bed when he went out there. So I remember enjoying it. I knew of him, again, a little bit from the ECW run. So I enjoyed it. It just didn't last very long. As I recall, I think the story at the time was, he was workout buddies with Triple H.
His Mania match is Triple H, right?
Yes.
WrestleMania 26.
Yes.
They will face each other.
And people were like, "Oh, well, that's why he's getting put." And maybe it was. I don't know. Maybe.
Funny now he's got his workout channel. He's workout buddies with everybody.
He's got to get Triple H on there now.
Yeah, he's got to get Triple H on there to talk about this
Yeah.
era in time. I think, you know, like we did talk about on the last show. It's like, hey, they were missing some pieces and stars left, and they were stuck with like not a lot of big stars, so they had to try this. So I don't think Sheamus was like the bad choice. I just think of how he won it. Cena falling was a really like lame duck way to get the title on someone, and them clearly shifting pretty quickly to get the title back to Cena, back to Batista, back to Cena, shows that they really didn't like want. They you said failed experiment. I think it's a little harsh, but kind of true. Like maybe we'll get back to him, and they will go back to Sheamus many times. And I think he got even better with age when it comes to like in ring and promo and everything. But I didn't necessarily love when he was like being focused as one of their big key players. I think maybe it was a little too soon.
Well, I mean, they didn't take the time to really establish him.
Yeah.
You know, so it was so quick. You've got to have buy-in from the audience. And when you look at who was on top, those are guys that were around for years and years and years. And that wasn't the case with him. And yet here he is wrestling Cena. He wrestled Randy Orton at the Royal Rumble, and he's in the Elimination Chamber. He's wrestling Triple H at WrestleMania. You don't find too many people getting pushed that hard that quick.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It's such Vince booking though. It's like they have the idea we need to go with someone new, but then you look at this. He wins the match by Cena falling through a table. You know, it's not a definitive win over Cena. The Royal Rumble match with Randy Orton is a DQ finish. You know, and then the next defense is the Chamber, which he doesn't even make the final two. So it's one of those things. Like so much of the time with Vince when they're trying to push someone new, they're so hot and cold. There's so much trying to protect your top guys that you're not going to make that other top guy. I feel today like you would have, let's say, if a Bron Breakker, for instance, would just steamroll someone and win the title, and it's like, we're going with this guy. This is the guy we want. And it's just, yeah, you beat Cena, you beat Randy, but did you really? No. And I think the audience sees that and therefore doesn't take this guy as the big guy they're trying to push because they're half in, half out.
Yeah, and it's not a case where they didn't know how to do it. I mean, just look at what they did with Brock Lesnar in 2002. Yeah. It's like if they have their guy, they know. I mean, the blueprint was right there. You know, he debuted in April. He steamrolled everybody, and within a few months, it was pretty clear he was heading for the championship. And then they put him over Hogan and Rock and all these guys, and it stuck. And he was a main event guy. With Sheamus, it was so quick, and I don't really remember how long it was after that before he was back in main events. I mean, obviously he returned there, but I think it was years, right? Because after that, he pretty much settled at, you know, maybe one level beneath for a couple of years until he beat Bryan Danielson to win the World Heavyweight title. But that was what, a couple of years later?
I think. Yeah.
A few years after that. I loved the era of, I mean, I'm saying this not truthfully because I don't like this era of the guest GMs and everything. Oh. I just had to look up who Carl Edwards is, and the way things are working out for us today with the Cody Cena thing is pretty bizarre. But news today, I'm talking April 3rd, 2025. If you search Carl Edwards may be coming out of retirement to race one more time in NASCAR. That is a headline from today. Just letting you know how weird.
There you go. It's only a matter of time before they show him Raw on Netflix. He'll be in the front row.
There he is.
They love showing their celebrities, and he's going to be back.
Because then they promote Raw next week. So they say, yeah, Elimination Chambers this Sunday, but even bigger news. Next week on Raw, guest GM, the power couple of Jewel and bull rider Ty Murray.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
What? I had to look this up. Unfortunately, they're no longer together. But singer Jewel, she's got some hits. But Ty Murray, bull riding champion, was a guest host of Raw. And
now TKO acquired the Professional Bullfighting League. We've come full circle now.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. Actually, a few weeks ago on Raw, they were even promoting when they were showing the celebrities, quote unquote, in the crowd. They showed, professional bullfighting champion so and so. I'm like, great.
Oh my God, no bull. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. See how it all comes together.
We go to Elimination Chamber 2010 at the Scott Trade Center in St. Louis, Missouri on the 21st of February. And Cena makes his entrance first, followed by Ted DiBiase. It's fine. As Cena comes out, he takes his shirt off, gives it to this woman in the front row, and she just looks so starstruck. She's like, thank you. Thank you. It's
Bright
quite funny.
T-shirt.
I'm going to make so much money on eBay on this. Thank you. Thank you.
Randy, Triple H, Kofi, and the champion, Sheamus. Kofi and Sheamus start the match, and it's Sheamus dominating Kofi when Triple H comes out. And there's this great shot when...
This is the mean face. This is the ghost of Triple H.
The light with his big smile, it looks ridiculous.
Terrifying. For years, people would use this picture because earlier you said Sheamus looks like a ghost. That light changed it to make Triple H match.
Well, actually, there are two famous memed photos of him. This is one, and the other one was of him. He was like flipping the middle finger, and it was to Goldberg. It was in the Elimination Chamber at SummerSlam, because he was still in his pod and he wasn't going to come out, so he just flipped him off with this big cheesy smile on his face, and then Goldberg just punched his way into the pod. But yeah, these are the two like Triple H chamber moments that are still memed to this day.
He looks like a ghost in this. Like it's his big facial hair that the light is shining and he's smiling. It's very, very funny. It's kind of scary, but the ghost of Triple H.
Kofi leaps over the top rope to take out Triple H, but lands on that metal grating. Randy comes out next, targeting Sheamus, and Kofi leaps off the top rope with a splash, taking all three out. He goes for a springboard into the ring, but is met by a drop kick by Orton. And then Orton catches Triple H with the power slam, goes for the RKO, but it gets blocked by Triple H. Kofi goes for Trouble in Paradise, but Randy blocks it. Triple H sets up the pedigree, but gets backdropped out of the ring onto the steel grating. When DiBiase comes out next, he starts attacking Triple H. He looks over at Randy. They're teasing, is he going to turn on Randy? But he picks him up and they start to gang up on everyone. They stick Kofi's head right through the chain, which is a pretty nice visual here. Mm-hmm. And then Randy hits the draping DDT to Triple H on the floor when John Cena comes out to a big reaction. He's taking out everyone, shoulder blocks, proto bomb, 5-knuckle shuffle, blockbuster to DiBiase, guillotine leg drop to Ted, and then the AA over the ropes to the steel on DiBiase when Cody runs out. Hands DiBiase a lead pipe, and Ted hits Orton right between the eyes with it. Then Cena and pins Orton in 24 minutes, 10 seconds. Matt Stryker on commentary making a note that this is the first time where like all 6 people have been in the ring in a chamber. Stryker was so irritating. On this call, just the amount of metaphors and stuff. Just
he didn't last much longer. I think it was maybe another year, and he rubbed enough people there the wrong way that was pretty much the end. I mean, he stuck around for a little while, but like as far as his big run on commentary, I think what really did him in was the Rumble the following year. That was when he started, in his own words, on commentary, marking out. When like Diesel came out and Booker T came back, and I don't think Michael Cole liked him to begin with. I think he just found him, like you said, very irritating, which is a shame because years later I enjoyed his commentary with Vampiro on Lucha Underground.
I was going to say the same thing.
I did too. I feel like I didn't like his commentary in WWE, but I did like when he did Lucha. I think he did some New Japan stuff possibly, but I noticed watching this match, like they do talk over each other quite often. Like you don't always notice that in WWE, but when he was on commentary, I did seem to notice that. Even the big finishes towards the end, he keeps like talking about something else. And Michael Cole's like, no, hold on. Like the finish is happening right now. Stop talking essentially. But
so there's then a Trouble in Paradise from Kofi to DiBiase, pinning him in 24 minutes, 30 seconds. I found this a little bit weird. You've just shot like a pretty big angle here with Legacy turning on Orton, and then 20 seconds later, Ted is pinned, like kind of making nothing of this almost.
He served his purpose. I mean,
I guess
they had to shoot the angle, and then it's like, all right, it's time to leave, and so they got him out of there. But I mean, he could have stuck around a little while longer, I guess. But once the deed was done, like he basically all of his usefulness in this match was pretty much gone.
We also really didn't need to see him wrestle much.
We didn't.
No.
Yeah, the $1,000 man, more like it. He never really clicked.
The problem with him is he didn't inherit any of his father's charisma, and they tried with him. And when this whole legacy thing, just real quick to go back to that time period, I remember like in the newsletters and all the chatter at the time was not that they didn't think Cody could go on to do great things, but it was DiBiase. And we're going to use legacy as a vehicle to really elevate him. And they had these ideas for him to feud and have a WrestleMania match one day with John Cena. Like it was DiBiase. And, he had the personality of a doorknob. And so it didn't work. And then if you remember what came after Legacy, they gave him the $1 million belt. They gave him Virgil. Like they were trying to recreate the $1 Million Man, but he's not. Yeah. He's not the $1 Million Man. They put Maurice with him. And I guess he was so, he was married at the time, and so he wasn't comfortable. Which I mean, imagine not being comfortable being paired off with Maurice, but like he wasn't comfortable with it, so it didn't work. And then the last thing they tried with him, and I won't blame you if you don't remember, but do you remember what the gimmick was?
I can't remember.
He would hang out with the fans sometimes outside the venues, and he had what we called the DiBiase posse.
Oh my God, the posse! Yeah.
The posse.
The DiBiase posse.
The DiBiase posse, and shockingly, this didn't last very long, and neither did he. And then he was gone, and now he's been indicted, and he's on money laundering charges.
He's not in the best of states right now. Yeah.
No. So,
but Cody's facing Cena at WrestleMania, so that's look how that they wanted Ted to be the guy. Maybe Vince just always isn't right. But.
It worked out well for Cody.
I mean, it's kind of evident the fact that DiBiase is in this match and Cody's kind of just the lackey on the outside.
Yeah.
Like that they're putting everything behind this guy.
Mm-hmm.
So there's then a bro kick to Kofi, followed by the Celtic Cross, and Sheamus pins Kofi in 26 minutes, 10 seconds. We're down to the final three. Cena, Triple H, Sheamus. Sheamus goes for the Celtic Cross to Cena, but gets hit with a low blow from Triple H, followed by the pedigree, and Sheamus gets pinned in 28 minutes, 50 seconds. So we are guaranteed to have a new WWE champion. Triple H and Cena are then going back and forth. Triple H going for the pedigree, gets blocked, and then...
Going for the STF, locked in. Triple H in trouble. He's got to get on his back. Triple H has got to roll to his back. Brutal submission hold that puts the pressure on the head, neck, and knee. Triple H has got to get to his back. He's got to get to his back here, folks.
And Cena looks as if he's riding a wild bull here, trying to last until the game will tap out.
Will Triple H tap out? Will Cena go to WrestleMania? Can the game hold on? Every time Triple H's chest touches the mat, that's where this maneuver is most painful. Clawing, clutching, grabbing.
I don't think he's going to be able to make it.
John Cena with the STF locked in. Triple H in an unbelievable amount of pain. And Triple H is fading. Look at his hands. Look at his hands. That's the top. He tapped out. Wow. John Cena is the WWE champion.
Wow. Number eight. Can't hear you, Davie.
Sorry. Yes.
He got so
8.
excited he muted himself.
I did. I was very underwhelmed by this Elimination Chamber match. I didn't think this was exciting at all. And I kind of thought, you could have actually had Triple H and Cena go at it for a little bit longer. The match ends in 30 minutes, 25 seconds. It's like essentially 90 seconds, just the two of them going at it. I didn't like this chamber. I don't think it's particularly memorable either. What did you think of this title win for John Cena?
Well, I mean, the chamber was memorable only for what happened after. So, I mean, the chamber itself, it was very paint by numbers stuff. There wasn't any kind of great story going into it, because there have been some chamber matches where there's real conflict between some of the people that are in there, and there's multiple stories that may be going on, and there was none of that here. So, I mean, the work was fine. But beyond that, it was a very basic Elimination Chamber match until Cena won. And then they lifted the cage up. And then we heard No Chance in Hell. And then we had something pretty memorable that happened at that point.
like the build to this wasn't. I mean, we didn't watch all of the Raws, but like all the superstars don't necessarily feel like the big caliber of John Cena or Batista from the segments that we had watched before, or Triple H. So like Sheamus losing the title is kind of like, oh, the crowd pops because they're like, oh, we know we're getting Triple H or John as the new champ.
Well,
but the match itself doesn't really have too much.
No, and part of the problem is, I mean, look at who was in there. So you had John Cena, you had Randy Orton, and you had Triple H, right? Well-established top guys. Sheamus had only been on Raw for a few months. So he was the champion, but he wasn't established. Ted DiBiase, same thing. He was not at that level. Kofi Kingston, they tried giving him a little bit of a push at the end of 2009 until we had the Randy Orton stupid moment. That pretty much that
NASCAR or something in there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's right. They had bought Orton his own racing car, and then Kofi destroyed it. But Kofi wasn't at that level. So you had Kofi, you had Sheamus, and you had DiBiase. And none of those three guys felt like they belonged in this match. It would be one thing if there was one guy like that in there, but they have three. So that was part of the problem. I just think that there wasn't enough buy-in at that point. Like, how many people watching this match in the building or at home honestly thought Kofi Kingston was going to win or Ted DiBiase was going to win? Yeah. I mean,
like when they push Sheamus, I think Sheamus in interviews over the years has said like it felt like Vince just was like, you, all right, we're gonna go with you, and then they put Kofi into the program with Randy, and I think Kofi feels like a bigger deal, but he's like the baby face, where Sheamus is the one who beat Cena, and it was like both of these newer guys, both from ECW, being like elevated, but still like not quite at that like level there. So it could have easily been like, you know what, let's go with Kofi becoming the champion, maybe going against Randy or something. But it still feels like this is a bunch of new people taking on like the established roster already.
Yeah. It's also awkward when you've got two chamber matches. This is the opening match. This doesn't close the show. You've got the like Undertaker, Jericho, Punk,
Shawn Michaels interaction
with the Shawn exactly. So I'm sure there's an element of there's stuff you can't do because the main event's going to have this and that kind of thing. But it does suffer because of it. And absolutely, you're not buying half of the competitors are got any chance of winning this.
So we've talked about all the John Cena title reigns through doing this show because we're the sickos. We're insane. This right here is the shortest John Cena title reign in WWE. But is it the shortest of all time? Because I was watching this. I'm like, how long was it? According to WWE.com, 3 minutes and 33 seconds is how long John Cena's 8th title reign lasts. There are shorter reigns in WWE history, but this one is John Cena's, ranking in at number 4. Pretty incredible.
I think Sheamus beating
let's play a little
Roman
game.
Is up there, and Randy.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say Yoko and Bret.
Yeah.
How long did Yokozuna have it for?
WWE have a great article up here. Shortest WWE title reigns at number 3. Yokozuna at 2 minutes and 6 seconds. I did not know about the number 1. Oh, there's 2 more above this. Okay, number 2, Money in the Bank 2016. Seth Rollins clocking in at 2 minutes. I think that's when Dean cashes in on him.
Yes.
And number 1, 1988. We were just talking about him. Andre the Giant, in 1 minute, 48 seconds after winning the WWF title, sells it to the $1 Million Man.
Well, do you remember he didn't sell him the WWF? World? He sold him the World Tag Team title.
Oh, so how come WWE counts that then?
I don't know. I'm still wondering why Andre would have called it the World Tag Team title. That's what he called it.
Oh, okay.
That's what he called it. I'll never forget it so long as I live. Like, Mean Gene's standing right there, and he's like, I surrender the World Tag Team title. I'm like, wait, what? What did he say?
So, those are the shortest reigns, and Cena is at number 4 of
number 4.
Holding that. That's crazy. 3 minutes, 33 seconds. So, from winning this match to what happens next.
And this was all in the opening of the show, by the way. So we had a 30-minute Elimination Chamber match with a new champion crowned, and then a second champion crowned, and that was the opening of the show.
Cena's in the ring celebrating the cage is being lifted when...
Congratulations! Congratulations, Mr. Cena! You're going to WrestleMania! Just as long as you can defend your championship right now against this man.
What is he saying? Oh my God! You gotta be kidding me!
The chairman of the board, the straw that stirs the drink.
Ladies and gentlemen, the animal, Batista!
Stir of the drink.
Hands up, fist clenched, ready to go.
And John Cena says go, and a right hand stuns Batista momentarily.
And Batista is fresh and rested, like you said, Michael. John Cena's just endured close to 50 minutes of hell. And again, Batista looks like he was embarrassed by that right hand.
Spear! Oh my God, the animal is unleashed here.
Oh no. Oh yeah.
Batista bomb! Bone rattling! You gotta be kidding me! Yes! Batista is the new WWE champion!
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Just like that, it's over. 8 world title runs. 3 minutes, 33 seconds.
You know what I love about this? Cena's in there. He's wrestling a 30-minute Elimination Chamber match, and he wins. And then Batista gets in the ring, and Cena is stumbling around like he's drunk, and he can't even stand up straight. And I'm like, what happened in the time from like when he won to now that he would be almost unable to stand up straight? But that was his way of selling it.
Scott Armstrong, as the ref, had drugged him or something.
Maybe they slipped it. Yeah, they slipped him something.
It's deja vu for John Cena because, as we've talked in episode, I don't know, 2 or 3, in 2006, the Elimination Chamber, when Edge cashes in, the first ever cash in, it's very similar. He wins the Elimination Chamber, and then right away Vince makes him face someone. This time Vince is just like, I'm Vince. I can just do whatever I want, and that's the story that they go with.
We don't need a briefcase. I'm just making the match.
Yeah, I'm just doing it because I can here. Maybe it's he really loved Batista's shiny nose stud here. But Batista taking John Cena's 8th title reign, maybe the most forgotten John Cena title reign, because now going into WrestleMania, it will be John Cena Batista, but Batista champ and Cena chasing. And that's clearly the story that they wanted. They didn't mention John Cena winning 8 titles, not once throughout this entire match and post-match. They just continuously hit over the head. John Cena is heartbroken. He's not going to WrestleMania. That's what the whole thing about. They didn't mention how many titles he's won. Doesn't matter that he's winning the title. It's he wants and has to go to WrestleMania. The importance of him looking up at the sign, acting very sad afterwards.
Well, now looking at what they did at WrestleMania, I would imagine that part of the calculus here is that they were not changing the other title. And so they wanted to have at least one title change on that show. They were not going to send Sheamus into WrestleMania as the champion.
Right.
So they decided, okay, well, we have to switch it up a little bit. Cena will chase, and we don't want to do Cena and Sheamus because, Triple H is going to have his match. And so what do we do with Batista? And so this is what they did, because otherwise you would have no world title changes on the show, which would be kind of, at the time, I think that would be a little awkward for WrestleMania, even though neither title match actually closed the show that year, which was the right call.
Shawn and Taker too, right?
Yeah. Yes. That was Shawn's
quote unquote
retirement match. So
still got one more in him, Shawn. You got
that's probably why they did what they did. They wanted Cena to chase. They wanted to do a title change on that show. They didn't reference number 8 because, I don't know if at the time there were other people, Triple H probably, who already had well above that total.
12 or 13 at this point.
Yeah, so it's not like Cena held the record at that point, and he wasn't anywhere close to 16, which would have been their record that they always talk about. So, yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme, it's like he won 8. Who cares? That's not really the story here. The story is he's got no WrestleMania match. Oh no, what's he going to do? And this is what they did.
I feel these kind of, okay, this is essentially a cash-in. We say it's not with a briefcase, but yeah, these always are a good angle. I always enjoy these. The crowd always get into them. So it is I guess, a smart way of getting it off of Sheamus. It does make Sheamus's whole run feel like nothing. But I don't mind this as a way to build up WrestleMania. Like we judge kind of each title reign. You really can't judge this one because it's 3 minutes, whatever. But I didn't mind the angle. I didn't enjoy the match, but I did quite like this angle.
Again, going into WrestleMania, and I'm sure we'll talk on episode 9, Davey, but like I feel like maybe most people forget John Cena, Batista have had multiple feuds in different times. Of course, we talked about his injury and everything, but we're now going to go into this WrestleMania where we talked about, Jason and I were discussing the kissing babies, hugging fat girls thing, like that. Batista as the champion with Cena chasing. Like I think maybe some people got into that one, but for some reason it's kind of a forgotten, like John Cena. Maybe it wasn't the main event, but it was probably second to closing, right? Like felt like it was the bigger thing. And in retrospect, Cena and Batista, two of the biggest modern time stars, especially at this time. So I feel like going into it, maybe again, I probably haven't watched since it happened. I'm wondering how well it will hold up.
and they went out there, by the way, WrestleMania, and they had what I thought was one of Cena's better WrestleMania matches.
Okay.
Because for all of the great matches that John Cena has had, a lot of them have not happened at WrestleMania.
Completely.
Yeah, I was just going to say his best matches definitely did not happen on that show.
Yeah, we've looked through some of them, right? Like, I mean, think his one against JBL where he finally wins the first title is not that great of a match.
No.
Maybe the Shawn one comes to mind, the Triple H one maybe behind that, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that those were his two best.
Yeah.
Shawn at 23, Triple H at 22. And those matches were very good, but even those matches, they're not like all-time classics.
Agreed.
People talk about Cena's match with Shawn on Raw, the 55-minute match they had.
Yeah.
They don't really talk about the WrestleMania match. So that's what I mean. Like, he's had so many great matches that I could pop off like the top of my head with Punk and AJ Styles and all these people, but like none of them took place at WrestleMania.
So going into Mania, that's it. Cena lost the title. The 8th reign is come and gone, and I guess he'll be chasing for number 9. Now, Davey, is that where we end here?
That's how this story works. Yeah.
Now we'll be going into Mania season. Batista, John Cena.
I'm looking forward to that one. As you said, Braden, we all like, you think of Cena, you think of the Edge feuds, you think of the Orton feuds. Batista feuds don't come to my mind as much. So I am looking forward to revisiting that because it's been a while since I've watched that match, and this version of Batista is very entertaining. So I think. Yeah, next show should be pretty fun. Jason, you mentioned a couple of feuds and matches Cena's had, but maybe some others. What outside of this title reign, just any Cena matches or moments that really spring to mind and that are personal favorites of yours?
Yeah, I think one of the greatest matches in the history of the company was Money in the Bank in 2011 against CM Punk. I mean, you talk about a 5-star match in front of a 5-star crowd. Just everything about it, the atmosphere for it, the story going into it, the crowd that night, it was perfect. Like, that's what I love about pro wrestling. So that one would probably be at the top of my list. But the matches he had with AJ Styles, their SummerSlam match in 2016 in Brooklyn, I was there for that one.
I think I was with you for that one.
I believe you were, yes. And that was a fantastic match. And then they had the match at the Royal Rumble a few months later at the Alamo Dome, which was another great match. That's where he won number 16. Thing I love about that match, they never left the ring. Not one time during that entire match did they leave the ring. It was all just a wrestling match. You didn't have, like so many times these days, get the tables and the chairs and the freaking boards with the nails in it and all this nonsense that we see. But they didn't have to rely on any of that. So the two of them always worked well together. So those are the, like, at the top of my list when I think of like John Cena matches. If you go back, I mean, there's the Last Man Standing match with Umaga at the Royal Rumble. I want to say 2007, I think that match was. Mm-hmm. Look, you mentioned the JBL match when he won the title the first time. I think their I Quit match.
Oh yeah, we
great.
Loved off that match.
That's a bloody match.
Yeah, we love
That's
it.
a bloody match. So I'll take that one over their WrestleMania match for sure.
I have a harder question for you. We asked
Sure.
everybody this too. Favorite John Cena merch, because the arrow we were just watching and talking about today is that bright orange one with like him. We'll have different variants of it. And is there anything that comes to mind that you really hate or really love or in between?
That I really hate.
There's a few to pick from in that.
Yeah. Wasn't there a John Cena garden gnome? I think they made it.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure there was. I actually think when Cena would just wear it like black, when he would have the black shirts, but he was wearing black jorts for a while. Actually, I think of that AJ match where he tied 16. I think he had black jorts. I kind of hope like at WrestleMania this year, he goes back to that look.
The Echo.
Yeah, especially now that he's a heel, like to go all black would just make sense.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe that would be my favorite. It's hard to say like what my favorite like Cena like look was because there it is. because like it was the same thing. It was t-shirt, jorts, and hat. The only thing that changed were the colors.
Yeah.
He did have one shirt. You asked me what my least favorite was. There was one with an arrow pointing down saying the champ is here. Which could have so many different meanings with the arrow pointing down.
Didn't have the title. They had the title on it.
I think it did, but still, like, it did have the title on it, and I just thought it looked so goofy.
Yeah.
So, if I had to pick one that I think was the worst, that might be it.
It looked fan made as well. Like the font is awful. Even the image of the title looks shitty.
Yeah.
It's just a horrible show.
Well, the title itself looks shitty, but like they were spitting out so many new designs and T-shirts just to try to make a buck. Like I don't think they cared. It's like we need a new shirt like every other month.
Doing now.
Yeah,
every city gets their own.
Yeah, like he's a heel, but it's like. That's not going to stop them from making their merch money here. Yeah. You know, it's his last year. So every time we go to a new city, we have to have a new Cena shirt.
Yeah.
Now, he is on his farewell tour. I know you've been a lot of wrestling shows in your life, and we talked a bit on air. You're not going to Mania this year. Are you going to try and catch one last John Cena appearance before the year ends?
I don't know. It would depend on if they're going to be close to where I am. I'm not going to go travel for it. Mm-hmm. But if they were going to come to New York, if they were going to be at the Garden or at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, and it was something, easily accessible and I felt compelled, maybe. It's tough though, with like what I do, because I'm always like live within minutes of these shows being over, because that's just what I do. So I almost don't want to pull myself away from that. So it would take something pretty monumental for me to feel like I have to be there for it. I'm not like consumed by, I have to see Cena one last time. My attitude is like, I've seen him. I've seen him so many times over the years. Like
don't need to see him again.
What would monumental be for you? Like what would your dream like final match for John Cena? How does he go out? Who's his opponent? Is he a babyface at the end? Is he a heel? How do you book it?
Well, he would have to be a babyface. I mean, he's not retiring as a heel. No. And I think there's a whole redemption kind of arc to his story that they could tell instead of him just reverting back to babyface in his last match. So I'm pretty sure he'll be a babyface. I don't know. I mean, the one match that I'm most excited by that I hope they do, and it would be malpractice for them not to, is him and Punk with Cena as the heel and Punk as the babyface. Especially after what Punk said about him after the Elimination Chamber. He cut that promo on him. You've got to do that match. But they should do that in Chicago. That would be like the best place to do it. And I thought, man, they hadn't announced, and I still don't think they have, where Money in the Bank is going to be this year. But it sounds like it's going to be in LA. Probably the same building where they have the Raw and Netflix debut. So I almost hope not, because if they could swing Money in the Bank in Chicago again.
Yeah.
And replicate the match there, like how great would that be, in front of that crowd? But you could also headline SummerSlam with a match like that. So that's the match I would want to see. Would I travel for it? Probably not. Although SummerSlam, actually, now that I think about it, SummerSlam is
or where you are, right?
It's in New Jersey. Yeah, it's at the Giant Stadium. I don't know. We'll see.
I think Cena will be headlining that show. I mean, it's 2 nights this year.
It's 2 nights.
He's definitely one of the big main matches.
Yeah, he has to headline. He has to headline one of those 2 nights.
Yeah, exactly. But I again, we're recording this on the road to WrestleMania 41, and by the time that all rolls around, I think he could be a 17-time champion. He could be a babyface again. Who knows what could happen?
Who knows? When he first turned heel, I thought, man. Actually, before he turned heel, I said. Winning number 17, it's just such a babyface moment. You would think they would want him to be a babyface for it, but like I don't want him to go back to being a babyface yet.
Yeah.
But I want to see him as a heel get that like number 17 run for a few months. Because I feel like him going into Backlash next month in St. Louis, in Randy Orton's hometown, you want to do another John Cena Randy Orton match? That's the place to do it.
Iron Man.
No.
2-hour Iron Man match.
No. I actually don't hate their Iron Man match, believe it or not.
We have a big question for you. Be honest. What's a better match? Bret Shawn Iron Man, Cena Randy Iron Man.
I enjoyed Cena Randy. Enjoyed Cena Randy more.
No more slander on.
And I say that as a huge Bret guy, but I was mostly bored by their Iron Man match.
There you go.
Cena Orton, it didn't bore me.
Got pyro.
There was that one weird moment, I think, where Orton went by the pyro and he was he pushed. Yeah, he tried to kill him.
Right.
But no, I thought that one was more exciting than the Bret Shawn match.
Yeah.
Bret and Shawn lacked attempted murder for sure. Like
yes.
that match needed that, especially for those first like 45 minutes of it. 100%.
Yes.
We need heel Cena now doing that to Randy. We need Cena to do all the mean things people did to him. Now back onto them while we still can.
Yeah. So if you're going to do Cena and Randy, I just think St. Louis in the main event. And if he's got the title, even better. Yeah. People would just be dying to see Randy win it. I just think it would be the best place for it. Cena Punk is another one they have to do. I don't know how many matches they're going to do with Cena, against guys he's never wrestled before, like a Braun Breaker or someone like that. I don't know. I don't know how many of those we're going to get.
R-Truth. We need him to murder R-Truth.
Well, that's what I've been saying, but I mean, I'm not sure we're going to see him on TV again until WrestleMania. I'm hoping we get a surprise because he's not scheduled for any other shows.
Right.
Last show he was scheduled for was the one on Monday in London. So, I mean, unless The Rock is going to stand in for him the next 2 weeks, and we haven't seen him, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do, but I guess it just comes down to how many matches does he have left? He's only got so many dates. Is he going to wrestle on TV? Is he ever going to have a match on Raw again, or is it just going to be PLEs?
That's true. Like one last Raw match. True. Like I can't pinpoint. I'm sure he's had one in the last 5 years.
But I've said, like, whatever that last match is going to be, he's going until the end of the year. It should be its own standalone special.
Yeah.
You could just a Netflix special, a Peacock special, whatever. Like all built around like John Cena's final
100%.
match.
Either in Boston or MSG. Like that probably would be the right. Like
I would think so. Yeah. But again, even like a major wrestling city like a Chicago, because you're going to have a hot crowd. He's had some great matches there. So I think even something like that would work.
Well, there we go. We've talked a lot about John Cena here today. Everyone out there listening, appreciate. Jason, thank you for joining us to
thank
talk
you so much.
Cena. Thanks for looking back on the great times in 2010.
Well, thank you. 2010 is not my favorite period of WWE history, but it was more fun chatting about it with you guys than it was watching it. So
really appreciate it. I hope you have a fun and happy, healthy WrestleMania season as everyone out there listening. It's a fun time to be a fan right now with everything going on. I'm sure you got a lot of things going on for WrestleMania season. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, this is always the busy time of year. So there's always just so much going on, especially WrestleMania week. There's always so much going on, but I'm ready for it. Hey, look, it's all about Mania season. Even though up until like this week, it didn't really feel like it. I agree.
But I feel like between the Cena thing on Monday and then Gunther just murdering Jimmy Uso, which I loved.
We needed it.
Oh, yes, we did. He looked like a psychopath. Now it feels like maybe we're finally on the road to WrestleMania.
Excellent. Well, it was a fun time chatting. Anyone out there listening, we do this once a month. We'll be going through all 16, maybe 17 John Cena wins, title victories. PoisonRana.ca. Search Poison Rana in whatever podcast app or social media app. Give us a follow and check out all the other episodes. We'll have some future ones down the line and going through more Cena. So much. By the end of this, I'll never want to watch John Cena wrestle or anything. I'll watch his movies, but I'm definitely going to be putting him in a timeout for sure by the end of this.
Next month, hopefully, I know some world events have kind of screwed up a certain Richard Benson, aka Benno's travel plans moving to Thailand. But we have scheduled Michael Hamflett and Benno from the In Your House podcast, What Culture and Grapple, to talk about title reign number 9.
Maybe Benno's stuck at the White Lotus or something over there. But yeah, of course. What's going on with Thailand right now? Yeah, the earthquakes and stuff.
Benno's still, he's had to push back his trip so far.
Yes, appreciate everyone out there listening. Again, poisonrana.ca for links of everything else that we do. We'll chat with you very soon. Happy WrestleMania. The last time is now. Solomon, thank you so much for taking the time today to chat with us. Everybody out there, take care. Goodbye and be safe.
Ahoy!